Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Energize Your Online Business podcast. Hey there, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, guys, today we are going to dig into what you should do, or what you can do at least, with customer requests. Now, sometimes the requests are things that you go, oh, great idea, I'll absolutely implement that. But often, as we know, customer requests come in that maybe our first reaction is, no, I can't do that. Or no, I don't want to do that. Or any
They
number.
don't get it. What are they asking for?
Yes, exactly.
A lot of knee-jerk reactions.
Yes. Like they only paid me $500 for this program and they want one-on-one coaching as part of it, all that kind of thing. So we're going to dig into how to address those requests gracefully, right? Because that's what it all comes down to. No matter what our knee-jerk initial response is when we are communicating with our customers, it needs to be done with grace, politeness, and also fundamentally gratitude. I think it's easy to forget once someone has purchased that we are we're grateful for when they purchased, and we're grateful for them participating in the program. And we'll get into that gratitude a little bit further on. But maybe before you respond, well, first of all, listen to this full episode, but also just take a moment to center yourself first and think about, okay, no matter what this request is, how cool is it that I have a business, and how cool is it that this person chose to give me their hard-earned money for something that I created. Fundamentally, that is pretty darn amazing. So no matter how you decide to respond, start from that place.
Yeah, and every customer interaction is an opportunity to connect with your audience and continue to build on the trust that you've hopefully already built with them, but really to build that relationship and to make sure that they not only just are increasing that loyalty, and if they talk to anyone about your program, they're going to talk about it in a way that is positive, because it's very easy for these interactions to maybe make people feel less than listened to or less than important or whatever it is. So it's an opportunity to make customers feel heard, respected, valued, and also, though, to take what they've said and really an opportunity to evaluate your existing offer and to be a little bit detached from it, if you will, because it can feel, if someone's giving you feedback on your offer, we have those knee-jerk reactions to feel protective over what we've created. And so really taking, even a day to sleep on it and revisit it and say, okay, is there something to this feedback, this request, this thing that someone's asking of me that I can use to improve what I've already got going on? Or is there an opportunity to create something else, to create an additional offer, to create an upseller, to create any number of things that'll help benefit your audience?
Exactly. Every time a customer takes the time to reach out and request something, even if maybe your headspace is, oh, this is annoying, or oh, they're always asking for something. Every time a customer reaches out to request something, it's a really valuable piece of feedback, as Kate was saying, because first of all, think of how many other customers may be thinking the same thing, but haven't reached out, or maybe haven't even taken the time to identify that this request would be something that would benefit them. For every one person that reaches out, there's probably 10, 50, whatever, who would want the same thing but haven't mentioned it. And so probably the first thing to evaluate is this something that you could add to your program for a relatively low level of effort? And I will explain what I mean there in just a moment, but take a moment to evaluate how much this is going to benefit your current students, and also evaluate if this is something that it makes sense for you to roll into your current program. And again, if it's something that is, you're weighing the benefit to your customer with also the amount of effort that it's going to go into it. If this is something that you're creating and will last in perpetuity, that may mean that it's going to, that it will be worth it. Or if you are maybe repackaging something in a different way. For example, in the circuit sales system, we we write out all of the steps of the system in some places, and we have it written in a list, basically, and then we have it in an Asana template if you want to check it off. And then someone reached out and said, "Hey, can you put this in a graphic that shows the flow in a graphic?" And I don't tend to think visually, so it was not my immediate part of the initial creation to put it that way. But when someone said, "Oh, is this something that you can put into a visual graphic?" Which I guess is a little bit redundant, apologies. We said, "Oh yeah, that's something we could do." The lift was not, in terms of effort, was not huge. It took a little bit of time. Certainly, we had to map it out, and then we had to have our designer do it. But once we created it, it was something that could live in the program forever, or until we make tweaks or anything like that. And what it came down to was, it was an idea I just hadn't occurred to me because it's not the way that my brain works. So it made sense to do that. Now, on the other hand, if you're getting a request for something that will add a substantive amount of work, say, for example, you have clients and they bought a DIY program, and they're reaching in and saying, "Well, as part of this, I think we should be getting coaching calls, or as part of this, I think we should be getting one-on-one calls," or something along those lines. You may look at that and look at the amount of effort that it takes and what they paid for it, and you may think, actually, that does not make sense. I think the one thing that I really want to caution people about is that, especially when we care so much about our customers and we care so much about our success, and I think there can be a tendency to try to over accommodate, and whenever anybody makes a request, to try to accommodate that request, no matter what that request is, and really kind of tie ourselves in knots to try to make something work. And before you do that, take a moment to step back and look at that request objectively. Does it make sense that this is something that you could put together and add in your program? Or for your program, the way it's structured and what they paid for, and remember, they've already paid for it. They got what they paid for. So if they're asking for additional things, it's outside of the scope. But so bearing in mind what they've already paid for, does it make sense to create something additional or add something additional? Sometimes it may, absolutely, but sometimes it may not. And as much as possible, especially if you know you're the kind of person who tends to be an obliger, tends to over accommodate, you might have to stop yourself. And we'll talk in just a little bit about how you can do that graciously, but you might have to stop yourself from putting so much into the program just because people requested it.
Yeah, I think this is also an opportunity to evaluate, can you meet them halfway? It doesn't have to be a black or white yes or no answer of yes, this is absolutely something I can do, or no, this isn't. So to look at it, I think, to go back to Nikki's example of, you don't offer one-on-one coaching. But is there something in your program already that maybe they overlooked, that there's a resource or content you've already created that can help them, support them in whatever it is that they need? Maybe that's something you direct them to.
Yeah. For example, if you be creative with it too. If you are thinking, well, they want one-on-one, well, I guess I could do live group coaching. You could, but also we've talked with students who've said, people are asking for coaching. I feel like maybe I should give them coaching. I just really don't want to tie myself to that schedule. What you could do instead is, again, it's just like with the circuit, right? You don't have to be live to provide value. You could have people send in their questions. You could record the answers to their questions on Zoom or on whatever your preferred platform is, and just release those. And maybe you release those answers once a month, or maybe you release those answers weekly, but you get to do that work on your own schedule, but they still get the benefit of your insight. But it doesn't have to be a one-on-one call with them. It does not have to be a live one-on-one call. It doesn't have to be a live coaching call. When these, I think the whole point of what Kate's saying is meeting them halfway, is you have the opportunity to be a little creative. When they're making a request, see if you can get to the bottom of what it is that they really want. Because they'll make a suggestion. Well, I want one-on-one coaching. Okay, they say they want one-on-one coaching, but in what way are their needs not being met? Right. So in this scenario, you might have to guess a little bit, but you could guess that maybe they feel like they don't have an opportunity to get their questions answered. Okay, so how can you address that? It doesn't have to be live coaching.
Yeah. And, for example, we've started adding FAQs into our actual program. And so, for example, in our copywriting program and our copywriting course, a lot of students they're building their portfolios, but they can learn a lot from portfolio reviews of other students. And of course, we do offer coaching calls in that program, but we've put sample portfolio reviews into the course so people can watch those and get valuable feedback, even though it's on someone else's work, and apply it to their own. So that might be a way to address that. But for some other examples, maybe a customer wants to promote their own program within your course, and that goes against your rules. Could you partner with them to do a one-off training that becomes part of your course and then work out some sort of affiliate agreement with them? Or, for example, a customer is asking for more information that's not part of the scope of your program. Can you refer them to a program of which you're an affiliate already and say, hey, that's actually someone else has already done this and they've done it really, really well, and we stand by their program. I'd recommend you check out this resource. So, for example, I think Circuit Sales System, we don't teach paid ads because you also can run a circuit without paid ads. But should you want to put paid traffic to those, we have a program that we recommend to business owners that they can join and learn all about paid ads on Facebook and Instagram and that sort of thing. Why reinvent the wheel if someone's already doing that well?
Yeah. Or why try to make yourself the expert? Like we run ads. We run a lot of ads, and actually at the moment we're doing it in-house. But at the same time, we are not experts at it, and we don't want to become experts at it. So it wouldn't make sense for us to create and try to maintain an ads training when there's someone else who's doing it way better than we ever could. It makes so much more sense for us to say, absolutely, I hear that. Here are the people that we would recommend.
Yeah. And to go back to your point too, Nikki, about what is the real question? We see this all the time in our programs, especially the copywriting program, where people often ask questions that are more a sign of resistance than the actual question they're asking, if that makes sense. So, for example, they'll ask, what else is good to learn alongside copywriting to have more skills to get a job? We could answer this question straight on, and say, hey, here's some copywriting adjacent skills, learning SEO, learning graphic design, all of these sorts of things. But the real core of the issue is that the student is avoiding the actions that they need to take to become a copywriter, which is more than enough on its own to make a living its entire career. And so really assessing these types of questions. Or as another example, we have people, and we have a lot of stay-at-home moms that join the copywriting program. And so other people will ask, hey, are there any other stay-at-home moms here who have made this work? So this idea of is this really possible for me to make this work? How do I know? And another thing, occasionally you're going to have customers that ask for a refund. We have customers that occasionally ask for a refund. And there are really two things that often go on here, where first, the customer who is realizing there's work to be done and is maybe questioning whether they believe they can actually do it. And so there's often an element of reassurance that they can do it. What questions they have, what additional support do they need? And I think that's the first place to dig in of what road bumps are coming up for them that are making them request a refund. But number two, it can often, be that they just realized, I just spent money and I don't know that I can actually afford this. And so is there something you can do to help them break that payment into more manageable chunks that works for them? As part of our circuits, we have payment plan options further in the process, not the initial offer. But is that something you can work and want to integrate into your own circuits of offering payment plans and offering a more manageable way for people to pay for your program?
I think fundamentally, whenever you get a request from a client, specifically a request, hey, I'd like this, it's an opportunity no matter what. It's either an opportunity to improve your current program, right? Like I said earlier, it's an idea that hadn't even occurred to me, but I could see now why other people would find that valuable. And it was easy for us to put it in. Or it's an opportunity to potentially create something, an additional offer that people would also pay for because it's clearly something they want and they would find valuable. Maybe it's not within the scope of your current program, but maybe it's something you could create additionally. Like we were talking about, if you had a DIY course and you're having a lot of people say, oh, we'd love to get some live coaching with you. You have other options. You don't necessarily have to do live coaching, but if you're open to that, maybe you create a next level of the program that's more in-depth and that has live coaching, but people pay for that. And maybe they even pay more for it because they get access to you. So it might be an opportunity to create a new offer. And even just fundamentally, it's an opportunity to learn more about your customer, learn about what they're thinking, learn about what they're concerned about, learn about what they want. And that can be useful too throughout your sales process, but then also throughout your customer support as after they've purchased. These the issues that they're bringing up now may be questions that you can address before they purchase, but it can also be things that you can address as part of your welcome sequence. If you notice that people are starting to get a little, they start to slow down, maybe they're not taking action as much, is there an email that you could put in and say, okay, hey, this is usually when people start to slow down, stick with it. It's all such valuable information. But the most important thing is that when you get a request, and I understand if you are still your own customer service person, I remember the days of getting all of the emails and the requests, and it can feel like a lot. And when you have a customer who is making a big request of you, I understand that sometimes the knee-jerk reaction can be like, what do you mean? You're already getting so much from me. Obviously, that's not what you say to them. But it's more than anything else, try to take a step back from that and recognize that this is an opportunity. And again, first and foremost, be grateful that they gave you the opportunity to learn from this because they were willing to open an email or however they made the request and let you know what that request is.
Yeah. And I think so when it comes to responding to people to these requests, because they took the time to send this, acknowledging that they are trying to be helpful. It's coming from a place of good intent, even if that's not how it feels. I think making the assumption that they're coming from a place of trying to be helpful is a positive assumption to make. So starting by thanking them for that feedback. We want to feel like we're listening to them, that we understand where they're coming from. So I think, not just acknowledging their requests, putting yourself in their shoes to understand why they're asking this or how it would benefit them. And of course, if you do that and you're thinking, well, I still don't understand what it is that they're asking for, maybe, or why that would benefit them, it absolutely makes sense to then ask additional questions. If you're not 100% clear on what they're asking for, maybe it is something that you can deliver on, or it's something you're already delivering that they just don't know about or missed. I think in a lot of our programs, there's so much information that it's hard sometimes to remember what maybe they just need a better signpost. And of course, we use that to then better signpost within our courses, because if people are missing it, then we want to make sure they don't miss it. But even if it's not something you can help out with, gaining more insight into those future opportunities that Nikki was talking about, you don't want to make assumptions. So get that information that you need to weigh whether this is an opportunity down the line, and kind of prioritizing too, especially if you're getting lots of different requests. Maybe you keep a list of all of these opportunities and just prioritize them so that as you have time and can address them or want to address them, you're able to do that.
Exactly. And so I agree with Kate that the first thing that you should say as someone reaches out is to thank them. And then, as she said, think carefully about this. If this is something that you're going to roll out once you've got all the information, let them know. If you can give them a ballpark and say, thank you, this is super helpful, and we're absolutely going to put this in the program. Look for it within the next month or so, and make yourself a note, and so that you can alert them as well. Shoot them an email to be like, hey, this is up, this is in there, this is great. And sometimes that will be all that you have to do. But sometimes people request things that you either can't do or you don't want to do. An example is in the copywriting course, not to keep going back to that, but we will get students periodically asking for transcripts of the video. Now, there are actually two reasons that we don't do that. Number one is because we don't, and you business owners, you know this, I don't want people getting into the course downloading all the transcripts and then canceling their credit cards or doing a chargeback or something like that because they have it all. We have a lot of stuff in there, and it would take a lot of time to download all the transcripts. But if we had transcripts, it certainly would be possible. Is it overly likely? No, not really. But I will say that that was a consideration way back when I was setting up the program. But as the program's gone on, what I've learned really is that it benefits the students not to have transcripts in there, because we have found that they listen and they learn better when they have to take their own notes versus just listening along and downloading a transcript. And so when students which still happens every once in a while, when students write in and ask for a transcript, that's what we explain to them. We explain to them that it is actually for their benefit. And certainly we have closed caption if someone needs to read, but it's actually for their benefit. So if you have a reason behind what you're doing that you're comfortable with sharing, absolutely let them know. Really, it's a thank you so much for asking, and I definitely understand why you'd be looking for that. But here's why we don't. Now, if it's something that is outside the scope of the program that you're offering, the steps are still roughly the same, right? Thank you so much for reaching out. We really appreciate the request, and I certainly understand why that would be beneficial. But you can simply say, like, within the current program, that's not something we're going to be adding, but I'll let you know if that's something that we add for future iterations or something like that. You can be very, very simple and very straightforward. But at the same time too, if there's some way, like Kate was saying, if you can meet them halfway, if they say, oh, I really want my questions answered, maybe you can say, thank you so much for reaching out. And I definitely understand. I understand the request. Unfortunately, while we can't add, or while we won't be adding live calls, I wanted to make sure that you know that you can email in with your questions at any time, and we'll be able to answer those to make sure that you are getting all the support you need to be successful.
Yeah, I think the keys here are really transparency in your responses. This again is another opportunity to build trust and also help the customer understand why or why not you're doing something. And I think there's also an element of just making the customer feel good. So you're transparent. And I think that alone, especially if you use, again, positive versus negative language. So in Nikki's examples, while we're not doing this at the moment, I'll let you know and we'll reach out. And of course, make a note so that you do reach out if that does change, or you send an email to your list of customers once you've added something to the program, which is a great idea anyway, to show them that you're continually improving, evolving, et cetera. But you can also say things like, I've passed this suggestion along to the team, even if you are a team of one at that point, just to let them know, hey, we're listening to this, we're talking about this, we're seeing what's possible. And there's even opportunity, I think, especially when it comes to something like a refund, request for refunds, to apologize. Like, you've more than likely clearly stated your refund in your policies, but still acknowledging that you're sorry that you can't extend a refund if that's the case. And just treating people how you'd want to be treated if you were interacting with a customer service team.
Yeah. And obviously the refund requests can be tricky, but in general, the other kinds of requests, the features requests, more than anything else, people genuinely just want to be heard, right? They want to know that you heard them, and that, and that what they think matters. And again, if they took the time to reach out, there's a fair to decent chance that there's some nugget of usefulness in this request. And again, if it's not something that you're going to roll out, it's not something that then you don't have to promise any kind of timeline. You can let them know that it's not on the timeline for right now, but you'll keep that idea for the future. That's a perfectly fine thing to say, because let's face it, our businesses evolve in all kinds of different ways and all kinds of surprising ways. And there could be a customer request that at the time you think, no way. And then 6 months from then you go, oh, actually, now that we're doing this customer request fits in perfectly right here. So, I realize that I have said this a couple of different times, but I'm going to say it again. Every time a customer reaches out to you, it's an opportunity. And quite frankly, every time, well, for most of the times people reach out, it is an opportunity. There's something to learn from the requests that are made to you. And again, maybe it's stuff that you're going to use, maybe it's stuff that you're not going to use, but there's something to learn from it. There's some kernel in there, and all of that is valuable. And they wouldn't be reaching out if they didn't care so much about the program. And they didn't want to interact with you more. They didn't want to be successful. They want success. They want success with your program, and they care about it. And that is fantastic. What a great position to be in. So you have some options. And the great thing is you get to decide what you're going to do with your business. Maybe you incorporate them, maybe you don't. But now, no matter what, you know how to respond to them. So with that, we will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Do you want to learn how to sell and scale your offer on autopilot every single day without the chaos of live launching or the low conversions of Evergreen? Who doesn't, right? Get our free on-demand video training at circuitsalessystem.com/free. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel to make sure you never miss a video. We'll catch you next time.